Then on Sports Central, we go over a March Madness game preview and prediction on the Sweet 16 matchup between the UCLA Bruins and the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Huge match for both teams coming up here in the Sweet 16. You got UCLA, one of the top teams in the Pac-12 this season, and one of the more dominant teams remaining in this tournament. They're taking on Gonzaga, a team that I consider to be one of the more dangerous teams remaining in this tournament, as they could very well go all the way. So a huge matchup for both these teams. We'll go over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today. Let's get started with your team trends. UCLA beat Northwestern 68-63 in the round of 32. Northwestern, one of the more surprising teams of this basketball season, and their journey ends in the round of 32. UCLA 31-5 heading into this matchup. 2-game winning streak as well. This team did lose the Pac-12 tournament title against Arizona, but turns out the Wildcats lost in the first round to Princeton. So UCLA definitely made the deeper run as far as it goes in March Madness. But for Gonzaga, this team just beat TCU 84-81. A really impressive win there for Gonzaga. I mean, TCU is a solid team, and it was truly a back-and-forth battle, but Gonzaga came out on top in the end. This team is 30-5 heading into this matchup, 11-game winning streak as well. This team is playing really well right now, and they're playing their best ball of the season at the right time. Games be on Thursday, March 23rd in Las Vegas. Tip-off is 9:45 p.m. Eastern. Spread's going with UCLA here by 2.5, so the Bruins are slightly favored in this matchup, which isn't too surprising. I mean, UCLA, the higher seed, and they've played really well down the stretch as well. I mean, I understand this team did lose in the Pac-12 tournament title game, but, I mean, it's not always a good thing to win your conference tournaments, as shown by Purdue and as shown by Arizona. I mean, Purdue just lost to FDU, the 16 seed, in a game that they had no business losing, and Arizona lost to Princeton. So, I mean, you never know what can happen, but for UCLA, I mean, despite being the runner-up in the Pac-12, or at least the Pac-12 tournament, this team has really played outstanding so far in March Madness. You look at the runs for both teams. UCLA dominated UNCA 86-53, and then obviously the win against Northwestern 68-63. And as for Gonzaga, beat Grand Canyon 82-70 and just beat TCU 84-81. So two high-scoring games so far in this tournament, especially for Gonzaga. Stat comparison for this one: UCLA averages 74 points a game, allows 60. This is a strong defensive team here in UCLA. Offensively, they can get it done, but defensively is really where this team shines. But for Gonzaga, it's a different story. This team on offense is nothing short of outstanding. Drew Timme underneath. I mean, this team is dominant inside the arc, and I mean, as shown, I mean, this team averages 88 points a game. They allow 73, so defensively, this team has been a bit vulnerable at times, but they've gotten it done for the most part this season. And if you look at the BPI ranks for both teams, UCLA is number 4, Gonzaga is number 8. Your notable matchups as well: UCLA was 1-2 against Arizona this season. They lost to Baylor by 5, beat Kentucky and Maryland, beat Kentucky by 10, and Maryland by 27, blew out the Terps there, and they also lost to Illinois by 9. So a couple of Big Ten games there. And otherwise, this team has played fairly solid against good opponents. And as for Gonzaga, they beat Alabama by 10 at one point this season, had bad losses to Purdue and Texas, beat Xavier by 4, and beat St. Mary's 2 out of 3 times. And I mean, if you look at Gonzaga, this team also played, we mentioned the Alabama game. They also played Baylor, and they lost to them by 1. That was a close game. The Bears, I mean, it was a close one, but they definitely were competitive in that matchup. And for UCLA, this team also played Oregon, one of the top teams in the NIT. Definitely a solid team there. UCLA also beat them twice. Key points for this one: UCLA 31-5, no Jalen Clark, which is a big concern. That's been the main concern for this team heading into this tournament, is how is this team going to be in the tournament without Jalen Clark, such a huge part of this team. But I mean, this team has done okay, at least with Jamie Jacquez, who's really stepped up to the plate and really been a solid asset for this team. He's an all-around threat, and this team, despite the loss of Jalen Clark, they've got experience and they've got the talent to win it all. I mean, I know injuries, but even if you look at Tennessee, the main 2 top-tier teams that we were concerned about with injuries were Tennessee and UCLA. And so far, so good for UCLA, this team in the Sweet 16, and that just goes to show as well. I mean, this team without him is still a really solid team with some depth and they're definitely a dangerous team. And for Gonzaga, this team has got an offense that is brutal to defend. When you got Drew Timme, I mean, you hear his name so much, and rightfully so. He's just nothing short of an incredible ball player, and I mean, it's brutal to defend him in this offense. He brings excellence and experience to this team. He's an experienced player. He's a senior, and I mean, this is a Gonzaga team that's had plenty of success in recent March Madness tournaments because of that experience and because of what he brings to this Gonzaga team. And that's why this team is one of the most dangerous teams in this tournament from the start. I mean, from day one, I really like Gonzaga. And I've had UCLA going this far, but I have had Gonzaga beating UCLA in this matchup just because of the success of Gonzaga and this team and Drew Timme and all around. This is just a really solid basketball team. And for UCLA, yeah, I mean, this is a dominant team as well, and that's why it's such a tough matchup to predict. But in the end, let's get to the prediction here for UCLA and Gonzaga. It's a tough one to predict, but in the end, I'm going to be going with Gonzaga. 78-74 is my predicted final score. I've had this matchup happening in the Sweet 16 since day one, and I just have to go with the Bulldogs here. I just think Gonzaga, I mean, this team offensively is just so dominant. I know UCLA has really played well despite not having Jalen Clark, but this is a team that's got experience. Both teams, though, have got great experience and depth and outstanding talent. And it's going to be truly, I think, an outstanding matchup. This is going to be, I think, and it should be one of the best games of this tournament. And in the end, I got Gonzaga winning it by 4. So I'm going to say 55% towards Gonzaga. Once again, close game. It's a 2 versus 3 game. What more could you expect than a close matchup? And the over-under is 145. I'm taking the over for this one. I see this being more of a higher scoring matchup. I mean, Gonzaga's offense, the sky's the limit for them. We all know that. And UCLA's got a solid defense, but I do think Gonzaga is able to put up right around 80 points in this matchup despite that. But yeah, Gonzaga, I got them covering the spread and winning this game in the end. They proceed on to the Elite Eight. Let me know your thoughts and comments below on this matchup, and I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.